non-violence as a profound and a greater and a deeper concept, we must understand the essence of human interdependence. And that is the reason I and some of my friends, we have been working on the idea of human interdependence literacy. Why we need to be human interdependent literate? Because you see, we keep on, we may not be violent with, say, other living human beings, but we may be violent towards nature as we find ourselves almost all countries in the world affected by the issues of climate change and environmental degradation. It is the result of violence by human beings on other nature and other living beings. If you read the Human Development Report 2020, it talks about this epoch and the Anthropocene. That is the era where basically, we human beings think that we are the most superior species on this earth. And that's why the Human Development Report red flags these concerns. In that context, the idea of human interdependence becomes extremely critical. And that, to my mind, is the foundation stone of ahimsa or nonviolence. Because if we are not sensitive to our relations with other human beings, if we are not sensitive to our relations with nature, if we are not sensitive to our relations with other living beings, then it becomes a problem. So that is number one into my mind. Each one of us need to be in 21st century human interdependent literate to be able to practice non-violence in its truest sense. That is number one, human interdependence literate. The second most important aspect, which each one of us find ourselves, is that inner turmoil. Most of us across the world, in fact, there are a lot of studies that are there, especially also by the the WHO, the World Health Organization, and others on the rising issues of mental health. We are in a turmoil. There are a lot of struggles, a lot of stress factor. So that means there are a lot of inner violence that are there. And because of these inner conflicts and inner violence, there is a serious problem of stress that we are having. So non-violence doesn't just mean that we are non-violent towards other human beings, nature, or other living beings, but also it has to also start from our own inner self. We need to be at peace within ourselves. As Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh said, that peace within oneself in the world. How can we practice non-violence? How can we practice peace in the world if we are violent inside, if we are not non-violent inside? Inner non-violence is something we need to start working on to start with. Otherwise, we will always remain in stress. We have to come out of our inner prisons. We need to work on our inner conflicts and resolve it in a non-violent way so that we can contribute to peace in the world. So that is number two, the whole essence of inner non-violence, the whole way of how we can practice non-violence with ourselves. If we don't practice non-violence with ourselves, like as Gandhi had said, non-violence is one of the best form of love. It is one of the best form of loving kindness. So that is something very, very important to understand. That is something very, very important to reflect. We need to keep on working on our inner self. Next, third comes, so the first is human interdependence literacy. The second is our own work of inner work, which we need to practice non-violence within ourselves, on ourselves. Let us see Gandhi's 5 pillars of non-violence. And I think those are very, very relevant and extremely important in today's world. In fact, as I said, when we are talking of non-violence, especially from the Gandhian perspective or the Eastern perspective, it talks about the human interdependence. So Gandhi's non-violence is simple 5 pillars And these are very fundamental pillars. And in fact, I think these are the fundamental pillars of all our communication, fundamental pillars of all our communication. The first is respect. Respect for each other is extremely important and basic. If we don't respect each other, if we don't respect nature, if we don't respect other living beings, then there can be a conflict. Like you see, we have a lot of conflict with nature, we have a lot of conflict with other living beings. So we need to learn to practice respect. It's a most basic thing. So respect for each other is the first fundamental pillar of Gandhi's nonviolence. You see, much of the problems, much of the differences, much of the conflict, because we do not respect each other in that way. So we must start with the fundamental level of respecting each other. The second most important dimension of Gandhi's nonviolence is understanding. With great respect, when we have respect for each other, it leads to greater understanding of each other's position. Because in a dispute, we don't want to understand each other's position. There is a conflict. So respect leads to greater understanding of each other's position. And that's something very important. Again, in a conflict situation, what happens is that we are not ready to accept each other's position. The issue of ego comes into play. So, in that context, again, it's very important that when respect leads to greater understanding of each other's position, and greater understanding of each other's position leads to greater acceptance of each other's position. You see, acceptance is something very important. It's one of the finest form of non-violence because I accept you, you accept me. It's acceptance, you know, because if I don't accept you, then there can be a conflict. There can be difference. So acceptance is such an important and absolutely positive dimension of non-violence. Then the fourth pillar of Mahatma Gandhi's non-violence is appreciation, the positive appreciation. You see, in a world where there are so much of negativities, so much of negative feelings, so much of negative uh, energies, what we need to look at is positive appreciation. There are so many positive things that are happening around the world. There are so much of positive things that are going on in the world. If we start that whole habit of appreciating each other, positive appreciation leads to positivity. There will be positive energy, and we will have that whole environment of positivity because that's so very important for our well-being. So the fourth pillar is appreciation, and the fifth pillar is compassion, understanding the suffering of others and trying to see what we can do to alleviate the suffering of those people. So that is again an important pillar of Gandhi's non-violence. So when we look at these five simple pillars of Gandhi's non-violence and try to reflect on today's world, we will find many of the conflicts that happen right in our families, with our friends, in our institutions. Uh, those are something which are very small in nature. Conflict starts from a very micro issue, and then it goes on to explode to become a very big issue. So, in that context, I strongly feel that if we are able to assimilate these simple five pillars of these non-violence, we will be in a much better position to help and to able to practice non-violence in the truest sense. Most of the time, we go astray. We don't we don't think these are important issues, but if we start becoming more sensitive to these, we will see the transformative effects of all these ideas. Also, so very important that non-violence, it's not a very difficult thing. Many people might think that it's very passive. It might There are a lot of questions related to that. It is very passive. It is Many people think it's of no use today. But I strongly feel that each one of us can practice non-violence not only individually but also motivate others to practice non-violence, whether in our families, in our institutions, or the society at large. The very fact that we don't understand in its truest sense the efficacy of being non-violent, it leads to the conflicts, and we see it across the world. I will give you an example. Like one of the countries in the world, Sudan, it has such serious conflict that is going on all of us. So this young person now, he is unfortunately a refugee in one of their neighboring country, that is Chad, because his house, he is from Darfur, his house was razed to the ground. He had to leave. One fine day, uh, about 2 years back, he was talking about Gandhi's non-violence to me. I try to work with a lot of young people across the world. At that time, he was one of the student union leaders of that local university where he was studying. And he talked about why many people don't value, Gandhi's non-violence. And then he said, I asked him why he had so much of faith in Gandhi's non-violence. He said, you see, sir, the place where I live in, there is so much of conflict. We are really fed up with conflict. Tomorrow, when I go to the university, I really don't know whether I will come back alive or not. His name is Muhammad Mirgani. So I desperately need Gandhi's non-violence in my society. In fact, about 4 5 months back, I motivated him to write an academic paper on the state of the refugees there where he's living. And there, the conclusion was that had my society followed non-violent traditions, we would not have become refugees here, because we are living in a most pathetic situation, because Chad is one of the most poorest countries in the world. So, also, another lady from the same country, Sulafa Muhammad, she was running a small peace building organization over there in Khartoum. And almost 2 months back, I was thinking that it has been a long since we got a message from her. Then one day she sent a message. I thought because of this whole conflict that is going on, there might be a problem of internet and all. So one fine day, I get a message from her. Brother, how can I take some advanced course on Gandhi's non-violence online? So you see, you know, possibly people like her and or Muhammad, because of the situation they live in highly conflict societies where there is uh, no guarantee how you're going to survive the next day, they desperately need non-violence, and that is the importance of it. Also, when we are talking of non-violence, it's important to look at, all of us, probably many of you know about one of the important, he's called the father of peace research, Johann Galtung, and his idea of structural violence. He's talking about different type of violence, the direct violence, the structural violence, and the cultural violence. In fact, Johann Galtung in 1969 came to India and uh, studied Gandhi and went back to develop his ideas on peace research. And today he's called as the father of peace research, and he has done commendable work. So, the different form of structural violence in our societies, like you know, uh, someone not able to access quality education, or someone not able to access healthcare facilities because of certain reasons, because of the different structures in our society. How we can work to provide many of these things, like say children in the slum not able to get access to education. So we, each one of us, as Gandhi was talking about constructive work, that is volunteering for constructive work, how we can, as young people, can volunteer to help many of these children, say in the slums, who are not able to access education, to take education to their doorstep, to help them in their education. That is how we can promote structural non-violence. That's what I. So each one of you have to, you in it to contribute to non-violence in different ways, whether in the context of the environment situation, whether in the context of by being more human, interdependent, sensitive, whether preventing violence, direct violence in different forms, whether in our families or in our institutions or societies at large, by coming together, young people coming together and we amplifying our voice for peace, amplifying our voice for non-violence, amplifying our voice for respect for people from different cultural groups and faith and identities, then also contributing by volunteering in a big way to constructive work to handle, to negotiate issues of structural violence, because structural violence are something which we may not even be aware of. And those are something which are very important in today's world. We need to work together to help people come out of various vicious cycles of the not able to get healthcare, education, so on and so forth. And can be linked with the whole ideas of the sustainable development goals, how we can contribute in that way, and non-violent education, structural non-violence as something very important, volunteering. I'm sure all of you, as you're part of that youth group, you volunteer in different forms or the other, and that's volunteerism. When we are talking of volunteering, something from the heart. We are volunteering, say we are volunteering for the homeless. It is out of compassion for the persons who are in the streets, who do not have access to anything, who do not have access to even food or warm clothes during winter. We have a passion. We want to go out and do something for them. And that is non-violent in its truest form. So when we are, indulging in such kind of acts, those are the ways in which we can do. And if humanity has to survive, as our friend from Sudan was talking about, non-violence is the only way out. You see so much of conflict going on, but we need to make non-violence, especially when we are talking to young people. And it is not just talking, it needs action. We need to promote the preponderance of non-violence more than violence. We need to look at social media. We need to see how different forms of social media and different forms are promoting violence in a big way. How we can become non-violent communicators in the social media, in the in a various forms of digital media that we are using. That becomes very important. In this context, non-violent communication is becomes very, very important. How we can be non-violent in both our verbal, our non-verbal communication, our thoughts and ideas. That's important. And we, each one of us, need to learn the art and science of non-violent communication today to be able to connect and engage with people, not just within our own groups, but and or within our country or region, but across the world. How we can reach out, how we can have camaraderie amongst young people, so that we can become voice for peace. That is something very important. The world is hungering for peace, and each one of us, as Gandhi said, the whole notion of peace, each one is responsible for ourselves. We are all responsible. We are all, we need to work for peace in a big way. In fact, Simrana, now with all these points, what I feel, I was given a list of questions by Neelam. What we can do is, with these small little background or foundation on my idea of nonviolence, there are so many people across the world, young people who want to work for peace, who are interested in working for peace. So it is important to bring people together so that we can have and amplify the voices of peace and nonviolence in a very, very big way, because that's the need of ours. So I was given a set of questions then to reflect upon. So possibly with this small little background, we can start working, discussing those questions so that it becomes more focused. Yes, please. Yes, Simrana, if you are able to hear me. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you are. So you can share your questions with us.
No, I mean to say I was shared with Madam Neelam some of the questions you want to ask.
All right, sir. So,
Yeah, so we can do that so that we can expand the discussions further with these basic background which I talked to you about.
sure, sir. Sure. So, thank you, Dr. Kundus, for your enlightening presentation. I'm grateful to hear some true stories which you connect with this discussion. So you shared some experience and true fact from yourself. So we appreciate your valuable insights and the time you took to share your expertise with us today, sir. So I think let's move on to that questions as what you asked from me now. So, sir, my first question is, what does nonviolence mean to you? And why is it important for young people in today's period?
Well, I have given an expansive understanding of what I think about nonviolence. As I said, the whole idea of human interdependence, the whole idea of nonviolent communication, the whole idea of human solidarity. That's very important. How I can have that solidarity with people. And here, when I'm talking of solidarity, it is not just people with whom I am able to connect, or people say within my own group, or within my own country, or within my own region, but it has to expand to people or individuals who are beyond that. That is a true form of human solidarity. And when we express those human ideas of human solidarity, those are the purest form of, if I'm concerned about what you are going through, or I'm concerned about our friends in Sudan, or we are concerned about and trying to do something for them in people in other parts of the world, we are echoing the values of human solidarity. So those are very, very important dimensions. So for young people, as I said, we need to work together. We need to connect. There has to be a youth connect to amplify the voices of young people to work for peace and non-violence, because there's so much of things that can be done. I will share with you another example. This person I'm working very closely with, his name is Vin Gervin. Vin Gervin is a Congolese refugee staying in one of the refugee camps of Uganda. And for the last almost 4 or 5 months, I'm working with him to help him promote Gandhi's nonviolent communication in the refugee camp over there. And he has got some very interesting results. In fact, today I was sharing with another person, and we thought we could develop an e-monograph of the findings of his research action training program that he's doing there in the refugee camp. And he feels that non-violence has to be an integral part of our life. Non-violence has and non-violent communication has to be part of our daily lives to be able to develop peaceful coexistence and a harmonious coexistence. So there are a lot of young people across the world who want to do. The most important is to connect with them and develop a common voice for peace.
Yes, sir. That's great to know from you. And when you are trying to connect this, with the true story, it's more interesting and it more understandable for us. So now I can move with my second question. So, what are some common challenges young people face when they are trying to promote peace?
Definitely, there are, when we are talking of peace, there are a lot of challenges. Let's start from the challenge number one, that is inner peace. Because everyone, whether the young people or uh, adults, we are all seems to be living in a very conflict situation, pressure cooker atmosphere. We may not live in a conflict zone, but we are living in a world where each one of us are running for materialistic aggrandizement. We want to get everything in shortcut. As a result, we promote or we develop inner conflicts. We start developing inner conflict. There is so much of turmoil within. There is so much of violence. So that is the challenge number one. How we remain calm, how we can develop that inner resilience to be able to counter the issues of this kind of difficult situations or difficult circumstances that we might face in our daily life. Because you see, most of us get overwhelmed by the difficult situations. We really don't know what to do and what not to do, especially for young people, job, career, so on and so forth. And everyone is trying to, move one ladder, one step, and after another step. So there is no end to or limit to our wants and needs. That is the most important thing we need to keep in mind. We need to look at the essence of simplicity and minimalism, which is an important dimension of nonviolence to my mind. Because there is no, as Gandhi has also said, there is no end or limits to our greed or wants. We must try to see how we can let go things. So the first challenge is how to do all these from our own inner self. Then the second comes say the family, the technologization of our ties, technologization of our lives, which is so greatly influencing us right from the time we get up to the time we go to sleep. Even while almost half sleep, we are in our smartphone trying to see the WhatsApp messages or social media messages. So much of technologization of our lives has really cluttered us, and our family ties are becoming a problematic thing. There are conflicts because each of the family members want to go at some direction or the other. There is no congenial atmosphere that is there. You see, worldwide divorce rates are going very high. Uh, People are not ready to tolerate the other person, so there is conflict. So that's again for young people a challenge, in their homes, how they handle such situations in their homes with their parents, with their kith and kin. So that's the challenge number two. Challenge number three, in the institutions, colleges or schools or places where they work, there is serious problem. There has been a recent report by the Gallup on the toxicity in our workplace. It is really claiming lives of people. Recently in India, there was this young girl, 26-year-old. She died because of extra overwork. You know, that organizations think that you have to be burdened with the young people with work, almost 12, 14 hours, 15 hours, 16 hours of work. You see, our human body can't take that. And at some stage, it is bound to go flat. So that's again challenge number three for young people. And then challenge number four is our society at large. And challenge number five is the global conflicts at large. These are the important challenges we have to face. But so how we can handle these challenges? It has to, as I pointed out right at the beginning, has to start from within. If we are not able to develop our own inner peace, if we are not able to come out of our inner prisons, we will get in serious trouble. Yes, please.
Yes, your perspectives on these challenges is valuable, and you highlighted the important issues as well. So I think I'd like to ask my third question is, how can people in the current world work together to create a more peaceful environment in schools?
Okay, in schools, I think peace education has to start from the school level. Non-violent communication education has to start from the school level. I go to a lot of schools here, and you see what has happened is that as more and more children are hooked to the mobile, whether it is India, or Sri Lanka, or Nigeria. I have this friend in Nigeria. He says his 5.5-year-old daughter, she don't do anything without the mobile. She will cry bitterly if there is no mobile. So it is cutting across boundaries. More and more young people, children are so greatly influenced by the smartphones and all. And many of the schools that I go, they talk about how these children, pick up the abusive and the toxic language used in many of these YouTube channels, or not only these YouTube channels but also these films, Netflix, so on and so forth. So, and they think that these kind of language are the new normal, and they can use it in the school or within their friends and all, and they think it's perfect to use them. So that becomes a serious problem. We need to start with non-violent communication education right from the school level. We need to promote peace orientation amongst school children by promoting possibly peace clubs in school. We have a lot of environment clubs, this clubs and that club. Possibly all of you working together, you could motivate some schools to start peace clubs, so that the children take the lead to do a lot of innovative and interesting activities to promote peace orientation amongst them. We need to promote media literacy, because, as I said, because we are using the technology, we are using the media like never before. We need to be media literate. We need to know the discern between the real and the unreal. We need to know what is true and what is false, with so much of false information going on. So media literacy has to start in the school level. Also, when you are talking of school children are also exposed to a lot of these violent games, online games, the various violent, cartoon strips and so on and so forth. So how, like when we are talking of media literacy, I will give you an example. Say, for instance, there is one very, very violent cartoon strip that is called Ninja Turtle. And many of you might have seen that. You will find those Ninja Turtle going on in a killing spree. So in my media literacy class, I would ask, say, you, Simrana, that think of yourself as the Ninja Gandhi, and how you come out of it, of the situation without killing anyone. So it contributes to promotion of your critical thinking and critical reflection abilities, and promote a peace orientation in you. So that is the ways, these are the innovative ways. Media, non-violent media literacy is the need of the hour to be introduced at the school level. Yes, please.
Yes, thank you, sir, for those actionable suggestions, and they can make real difference indeed, I think. So let me move to the fourth question, sir. What role do you think social media plays in spreading messages of peace and non-violence?
Well, friends, in fact, if the social media, one of the challenges to communicators today is the whole role that social media plays for polarization, amplification of hate speech and hate narratives worldwide. In fact, concerned with this whole preponderance of hate speech and hate narrative, in 2019, if I am not wrong, the United Nations launched a action and plan of action to counter hate speech across countries. So hate speech and speeches or messages of polarization and the language that is used needs to be countered in a big way. So in that context, as I said, we need to promote non-violent media literacy program, and also integrate media literacy program with non-violent communication, because that is very important. We need, hundreds and thousands of non-violent communicators across the world who will spread out, who will promote, counter narratives to these kind of toxic communication being promoted in different social medias. So that is a key here, I suppose. We need to promote non-violent communicators in the digital space. We need to have an army of non-violent communicators to promote counter narratives to many of these languages of polarization, languages of that hate, or languages of intolerance. Yes.
Yes, it's a timely topic indeed. So before we are moving to the next question, it is a quick reminder to the participants that they can drop their questions in a Q&A section on Zoom. We are happy to hear from you. Thank you. Now we are moving to the next question, sir. Can you suggest some simple actions that people can take to promote nonviolence in their daily lives? It means their daily routines.
Yes, so in fact, talking about what I said, we need to be sensitive in the context of human interdependence. That's number one, I think, because that is the art and science of actually contributing to practicing non-violence in our daily life. Sensitivity that we are not alone, we are connected to, say, I am connected to you, I am connected to the nature, I am connected to other living beings. Once we become sensitive to this whole idea, then it becomes much easier. Then assimilating these five principles of non-violence are extremely important for non-promotion of non-violence in our attitude and behavior in our daily life. That's very, very important. Then assimilating the ideas of human solidarity, that's so very important. Then assimilation of these principles like loving kindness. We must start with our self-love and self-kindness to go to the point of loving and kind promotion of love and kindness amongst others. So loving kindness is something very, very important we need to know. Then, of course, one of the very important things we must promote is mindfulness practices, because we need to be alert in the present. Mindfulness helps us to remain calm. Mindfulness helps us to remain, practice non-violence in a very, very important way. So I think we need to promote mindfulness practices and mindfulness meditation to remain calm and to promote inner non-violence.
Yes, thank you. Then this is my final question. How can parents and teachers support youth in learning about non-violence and peace?
How can?
Parents and teachers support youth in learning about non-violence and peace.
I think both parents and teachers have an extraordinarily important role to help and guide children to nurture these principles of nonviolence. If you go to the whole realm of child psychology, if children are exposed to violence right from their childhood, say whether it is through the media or in their daily lives, parents fighting or things like that, then they have those traumatic experiences and they will tend to be violent. You see, I work with many of these children who are in conflict with the law, and I interact a lot with them, and I find that because of the extremely toxic atmosphere in their homes, especially or in their neighborhood, they tend to become violent. They learn violence. You see, what is very important to know is that many people think that human beings are essentially violent. No, it is not. It is a learned behavior. You see, in 1988, UNESCO organized a very, very important summit to focus on this question whether human beings were inherently violent or inherently not violent. So UNESCO in Paris invited people from all over the world, experts, neuroscientists, psychologists, philosophers, other scientists, everyone, some of the top brains in the world, to come and discuss on this issue. And it was found that violence is essentially a learned behavior. We learn. As someone who is just born, he or she is not violent. He or she is not going to harm the other person. So, but because of the preponderance of violence in our daily lives, through media, through various other things, children tend to learn violence. But if we amplify the voice of non-violence, children will learn non-violence. So that is something important. We must make, as violence is a learned behavior, non-violence also can be a learned behavior. And we need to promote it in a big way so that they actually learn to be non-violent. I hope you were able to get what I'm trying to say.
Of course. Your thoughts on these topics are very crucial for fostering a supportive environment. And yep, that fine with all your question answers indeed. And thank you for sharing a valuable insight with us. And dear participants, it's time for us to go for audience interaction session. So we will be stopped live on our YouTube channel. So thank you for the participants who are joining us from the YouTube live.